me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For anyone who would save his life will lose it, but anyone who loses his life for my sake and for the sake of the good news will save it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but suffers the loss of his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? Whoever is ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed, when he comes with the holy angels in the glory of his Father. And he said to them, Amen, I say to you, there are some of those standing here who will not taste death, till they have seen the kingdom of God coming in power.
Of our Lord family. Welcome, Archbishop Stefan, sisters, guests, and of course my dear parishioners. And as you know, I have to choose between 2 dates, March 1st or March 8th. I choose that day because that a special day, especially in my country, in Ukraine, we call it Women's Day. We usually give presents to the women, flowers and everything. You know, dear women, today we would like to give you our lovely hearts, our warm welcome here to our parish, and of course, many blessings. May God love you as much as you love us and as you love each other.
More than oneself. And it's an ongoing struggle. There are many selves. Inside you and me, there's a lazy self, and also an industrious self, a greedy self, and also a generous self, a cowardly self, and also a courageous self. And you can go into many facets of human personality characteristics. All of us are many selves. The important question is which self will have preeminence in your life? This is what Jesus is calling to us to look at. This is what the veneration of the cross on the third Sunday calls us to look at. Which will we have? Which will have preeminence in our life? And it will call us to lose one part of ourselves in order to save the others. Which will it be? Will it be our little selfish selves, or the self that we want to be in favor of Jesus Christ? Do we stand for the things which He believed and stood for? The bigger selves then will be saved. Our desire then to be truly life then become a reality in day-to-day life. We will truly live and will not just merely survive. What will you resolve to deny or lose for the sake of Jesus Christ and the Gospels? What part of you will take eminence over other parts, so that you may be assured to have that salvation promise? And St. Paul, in his letter to Corinthians, tells us a number of different ways that helps us in our self-denial. But he gives us a biggie, I think, for a lot of us, for in today's society. St. Paul so beautifully tells us to take on the same attitude as Jesus Christ. So whatever we journey and walk in day-to-day life, we ought to take on the same attitude of Jesus Christ. And he highlights a few areas. He calls us to become God-like in our way of life, but not to become to aspire to be in authority God-like. Calls us to empty ourselves, to live with great humility in our dealings with one another, to appreciate the giftedness that God gives us every moment of our earthly life. And He calls us to sacrifice ourselves for the benefit and in our love for others, for our salvation. It was a very difficult, challenging time in Jesus' time when He spoke and taught the apostles and the people. There were difficult and challenging times for St. Paul. And there are difficult and challenging times that we live in today, you and I. And St. Paul and the apostles and the martyrs of the church, they model for us the strength of our coming together in prayer. We can't go it alone. We need to pray individually. We need to pray as a family, as a unit. We cannot do it alone. God provides us strength and guides us to walk in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. When St. Paul warns against us very beautifully, he draws our attention to not to be aspiring like God in terms of authority over others. Today's society, I would say, you and I have a large extra affliction today that we can become very subject to in our day-to-day lives. An attitude of entitlement. That we somehow think we're deserving of that extra attention. Like points that we have on a credit card or on a miles airplane and so on. But it has become pervasive in our attitudes, an attitude of entitlement. And when we live in an attitude of entitlement, we tend to take on a way of becoming authoritative, like God, grasping to be like God in all things. And St. Paul warns us against that, to deny that in ourselves. Pope Francis so beautifully is drawing attention to societal ways, the world ways, and how we have the better off world it lives in an attitude of entitlement to the sacrifice and detriment of so many poor and neglected. On a larger scale, you and I would witness daily on news these horrific events that are going in society. In eastern Ukraine, our brothers and sisters suffering from rebels who want to be authoritative over others and deny democratic choice by people to choose how they live. Democracy, the democratic voice of a people and of a nation, snuffed out because of a select number that want to dominate over others. So many people, all over Europe, in particular in Western Ukraine, refugees, so much suffering and death because of these people who want to domineer. In Iraq, Syria, in the different Middle East countries, ISIS and these other groups, they're not nationalist groups, they're terrorists. A few people trying to dominate over others, using cruel and brutal tactics to enforce their ways upon others. I don't see them as spokesmen for any particular faith. And then there are the people in Nigeria and other countries, the kidnapping of women and girls, the different ways that the atrocities that have been experienced by the people there, countless refugees, people fleeing not to be subjugated by the small number that want to domineer, that is attitude of entitlement that they know best for you. Our people knew that in the communist era, who the Soviet person, they know what's best for you. We have to pray for the world leaders to understand and to fight against this pervasiveness of this attitude in so many ways, and help and support in the ways we can those who are struggling, our refugees in these situations. But I want to also bring attention, I think the cross does that for us, is we can look at these world events which we largely have no control over. We must pray. We've called to attention of world leaders. But you and I can become like that too. It's easy to judge others elsewhere, far away, but we could become, in the same way, have these kind of attitudes of entitlement, authority over others in our own families, in our parishes, in our communities, in our societies. I just take a small example of cell phones. I travel lots. I dislike air travel. Travel lots and see how people hide themselves on the cell phone when they're told to shut it off. At the danger and the risk of many people on a plane. Walk into restaurants and see people having lunch together, enjoying company, wondering, what are they all doing? What are your children doing around the supper table? And they're talking about you while they're texting each other. I asked my priests around the table when they sit around the conference table and they're texting. And they're talking about me, running the meeting. But it's a small example of how it's overtaken us, our attention, something like that, to become all authoritative, like God. Instead of appreciating the giftedness of our environment, the person that we're sitting across and speaking with, we can also take on this attitude of entitlement and authority to the negative of others around us whom we supposedly love and care for. Take a look at yourselves in the mirror. I need to do that continually. You do. And look at our own attitudes. Do we deny others? Do we become authoritative in the way we treat others? Are we, in some smaller aspect, like those we look on the world stage, not allowing for freedom of expression of others around us? And I dare say, when you look at some of the difficulties between communities, between cultural groups, within our own societies, you see it happening. The pervasiveness of those who think their way is the only way, the right way. You and I suffer that infirmity. And the cross calls us to deny that, to surrender that, put that away, shed ourselves of that. So today's veneration, the cross calls us to empty ourselves of destructive attitudes, to choose to live with great humility for and with others, to be kind and generous and forgiving of others, even those who we do not favor or have some dispute with, to be zealous and desiring the good of others. Pope Francis so beautifully calling us to look to the other. Look in the media how so many poor are coming to the Vatican, and you'll see one side bemoaning the presence of so many poor in the Vatican Square, St. Peter's Square, and others heralding that the poor have a place in the heart of the church. What's our perception? What are we willing to surrender? What are we willing to deny in our own self? Do that in your own families, in your own churches, in your communities. We're all guilty of that great infirmity. God calls us to be zealous in wanting the best for others, to shed these attitudes that belittle or take away. The cross is a reminder for us to shake all those things that hold us back, to shackle us down, to be like Jesus Christ in all things. So the most powerful means to take on that same attitude as Jesus Christ is that of coming together in group prayer in our churches, in our parishes, in our homes. We can't do it alone. And individually, in the privacy of your own room, when you speak from your heart with Jesus in your own words, to try to be God, take on the attitude of Jesus Christ. And then surely we will take up our cross